Hey there, fellow mortals. Remember when I started this? That's the wrong side. This. Well, I finished it, and here's how. I have these two doodads, the filming of which I have very little because it was tedious and unentertaining. Basically, on thick craft foam, I drew and cut out a roughly hexagonal shape, but of course it was lopsided, so I snipped the sides to try to fix it, and then just kept snipping until it was the impractically small size, but not geometrically perfect shape of a honeycomb cell. It's a good thing I'm in school to become an occupational therapist, because I would have made a truly remedial bee. Once I figured it out, I carved donut holes with the diameter of this ribbon cord thing, painted the fake hex nuts gold, glued them to these silver-painted sheets of thinner craft foam, then glued those to either side of the boot, one on the x-axis and one on the y. For reference, this is what it looks like at the end. I found the best way to cut this ribbon cord thing, unless you want to burn off your fingertips or hide them with nail polish, is to cover the area around which you want to cut, let it dry, cut it, then dab the tip with hot glue to secure it so it won't fray when you stick it in a hot glue jacuzzi. This cord has a natural curve from its long shelf life of trying to conform to craft store beauty standards, which I'm using to my advantage to create the convex or rainbow-shaped curve between the two pots of gold. Now guesstimate, mark, and cut the cord to the length you want, erring on the side of too long, because you can always cut more, but it's a doozy trying to add extra cord. Considering that this is the second part of the video, it's probably a good time to explain why the title says Lost Wax Style. If you clicked on this video because you thought I would show how to make metal boots using the Lost Wax jewelry casting method, I'm sorry, you wasted your time. Though it would be really cool to have those Zelda Wind Waker iron boots to press large obstinate floor buttons and trudge through magical windstorms, because, you know, sometimes you gotta do that. But no, actually there's a YouTube channel called Lost Wax, and the guy on it does all sorts of really cool steampunk crafts, and I've been watching it for years, and so much of what I'm doing here is what I learned from there, so huge shout out to Chris, who likes to make things. Also, I promise my next video will be more original. Once the cord is the right length, insert and glue the ends into the honeycomb-shaped jacuzzi filled with gold that's also a donut. I may have made too many metaphors. To make the cord less ostentatious and more antique-y, I mixed black paint and water and painted it on. To test the consistency, paint the mixture up the side of a paper cup. If it looks like the silhouette of a dark magical forest, you've got the correct paint-water ratio. I made this metal plate-looking thing based on the design of the Fancy Pants pattern piece in Lost Wax's jetpack pattern. Then, to make the second one, I stuck the boot in the printer, pilfered my brother's old USA jacket, and draped it over the printer, which, like many of us, does its best work
whilst relishing in the blissful solitude of darkness.
I cut out the pattern, looked through my craft foam stash, and realized I didn't have a piece big enough, so I cut two pieces to fit, then permanently glued them together like puzzle pieces. I taped the pattern down, then traced it onto the foam, trying a few different ways, but opting for poking holes with a sewing pin along the edges, then tracing over those. And if perchance you're not sure if this is feasible without your grandma's sewing tomato and your new color-coordinated pins, dinna ye fash, I checked, and safety pins work just as well. Cut out the piece, then with an X-Acto knife, trace the swirly bits like one would carve the meal at a haggis cutting ceremony, meaning if you go over each line a few times rather than trying to samurai slice it in one stroke, the edges will come out smoother. Since it is finally getting chilly out, take the USA jacket, no longer encumbered by its printer sheltering duties, and wax that bad boy on. Oh my gosh, this is so much more comfy than it looks. No wonder he liked this thing so much. Like a patriotic fighter pilot. Line your boots up facing opposite each other so that you know your plate is in the right place and facing the right way. Alright, how many rivets do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, look at me consistently judging distance. Keep your stay in self-congratulatory land short, because remember, patience is a virtue. Wait, no, humility. Now give your plate a Vulcan mind meld, and with your newfound understanding of its consciousness, get to riveting. Place the rivets parallel to those on the seams. Finish the top, bottom, and curvy borders, and it's ready to paint. I went over it with copper paint, and now, as my mother always says, we need to
maximize our time.
So whilst waiting for the paint to dry, I took a trip to the Walmart craft aisle to get supplies for the next part of the project. Okay, whose idea was it to put the glittery fabrics above other fabrics? I untangled the chain, and to keep it that way, put it in a little curly cue. I'm wrapping this about the rim of the boot by applying epoxy, arranging the chain atop it, and waiting for it to dry. If you do this a few inches at a time, it will be far less infuriating because there won't be the chance of the entire chain falling off as you work. When you've gone all the way around, mark the end chain because that sucker will disappear the second you look away like a zebra in a dazzle. Then cut it with jewelry pliers. I added a second coat to the plate, and while waiting for that one to dry, I was in a really productive milkmaid-style bandana-wearing mood, but I didn't have one that matched my outfit, so I took a black and white gingham remnant that I got at Joann's a while back and made it out of that. Also, did you know that the standard size for bandanas is 22 by 22 inches? I did not, but hey, the more you know. Because I brush painted this rather than buffing it, the rivets kind of blend in, so to remedy that, I'm painting them with this shiny metallic-ish black paint. So these boots have these horizontal straps, and I wanted to accent that, so I did with these chains. The one in the middle is the same as this one, and then the ones on the outside are a different type. They came all in the same package, so that was nice. I'm going to try to explain how I did it as best I can because I already have the other one done and I did not film it. While trying to explain how I did this for the voiceover, I thoroughly confused myself, which was concerning since I was the one who made it, so I named the chains, which will hopefully clear things up a bit. So meet Carrie, the shortest, Laura, the middle one, and Mary, the longest. To make Carrie, drape the brass chain around the boot ankle to the length you like, then cut it and attach the two end links to make a loop. Then take the bronze chain and measure it to be a skosh longer than Carrie. Drape them both around the boot to make sure you like how they look together, then cut the chain. This is Laura. Attach both end chain links of Laura onto a single arbitrary chain link on Carrie. We'll call this one Nellie. Now take the brass chain and repeat the Laura making process to make Mary, measuring, cutting, and attaching the end links to Nellie. Okay, so it's possible that the Little House references actually made it more confusing, but I've spent way too much time editing it already to restart it now, so it'll just have to do. Which may sound unprofessional, but it was basically Disney's excuse for Frozen 2, so... Want some ice for that burn? That's right, I said it. I didn't like it. At me. Now slip the Wilder Girls onto the boot like you would an anklet, if indeed you put an anklet on from the top of your leg rather than the bottom around your foot. And hot glue Nellie to where she will lie about an inch below your medial malleolus, aka the distal epiphysis of your tibia, aka the bony protuberance on the inside of your ankle. Then, to cover that unsightly glob of hot glue, mutilate a clock button and stick it on top. If you're a smart cookie, you may have noticed that this is on top of the zipper, rendering it useless below the button, which isn't an issue for me since these zippers have been broken since literally before I got my driver's permit, but maybe make sure that you can slip these on without zipping them all the way, though I'm sure they'd make lovely mantelpieces, or bookends, or a bugle case. Nope, bad plan. The black rivets were a bit garish for me, so I muted them with a thin layer of gold paint. With nothing project related to do until the paint dries, take some time to play some piano. Alright, it's probably dry by now. And for those of you with a compulsive need for closure, I glued the plate to the boot one side at a time, letting it dry in between. I got these American doll-sized keys at Joann's, which I attached to this screw head-looking thing with gold thread by tying a double overhand knot around the ring and then another about a centimeter away. Then I tied a single overhand knot around the circumference of the screw head and secured it with epoxy. Once it was dry, I tied it off and cut the excess. Then I took another key, and because I want to announce my presence with appropriate gusto through the resonating chime of clinking keys, I actually added 2. Then I threaded and tied them through the square zipper hole, and voila! Because of the love of before and after pictures that my mom has instilled in me from a young age, though that actually had more to do with cleaning the house, but here are some. Also, look how ready I am to join the Royal Navy airship fleet gondolas. Okay, you know what? I just make the costumes.